Alright guys, today we're going to talk about reading a hitter. And this is probably one of the most practical things that we do and happens a lot in games. And when we talk about reading, I know we kind of did reading of setters already, but when we talk about reading, what we're trying to do is identify what's going to happen before it happens so that we can play the game and anticipate what's going to be happening, get ourselves in the right positions and set ourselves up the ability to actually attack quality balls and get good passes and good sets. So reading is a crucial skill. It's about understanding how the game is going to happen before it does, and it's really just a matter of paying attention. Reading a hitter specifically allows us to do two things. One is obviously make sure we set up the best defense we can against the most likely attack that they bring in, but it also allows us the ability to then run an attack thereafter and kind of set ourselves up for not only the defensive side and the offensive side. So first thing we're going to look at is why are we reading a hitter, and what benefit does it have to the people that are reading the hitter? So blockers, pretty easy one here. By reading a hitter, we have the anticipation of the block where we need to be, and it really gives us a good point, good point of reference of this is where I'm going to start because we believe this is the most likely shot for the attack, and it just sets you up easy. It's pretty obvious. Defense. Again, simple. We're anticipating where the ball is going to be contacted to on our side of the court so that we can move our body there, stop, get ready for the ball, and then play it from the most likely place that they're actually going to hit the ball. Setters. You're also going to notice a blue star next to setters. That's because obviously they have to play defense as well. But if it's a back row setter specifically situation, the reason that setters need to read the hit is because as soon as they identify that hit is not at them, they can transition to the net. So if they can identify that, hey, I'm impossible to be attacked here unless they roll shot it, then so I'm going to start transitioning, and if they have a roll shot, I have enough time to play it anyways. So transition in the setters is really, really important, especially if we're running a 6-2. You need to make sure that we know when the ball's not hit at you, even more so importantly than when it is hit at you, so that we can set up an offense appropriately. Off block, which is, let's say it's an outside attacker. On the other side, our outside attacker will play middle of the court, 10-foot line, an off block. They need to know whether or not the ball can be hit at them or it's going to be tipped, etc., so that if it's not going to be a ball that's playable by them, they can transition and get out, and we can run a set all the way out as compared to a blue or a red 32 option. So pretty straightforward stuff. Reading opportunities. Okay, this is how you actually identify what's happening in the process and how you read it. The first one is going to be the angled approach. That's probably the most evident for me. Okay, if you're a hitter, you can also learn from this as well. So something to pay attention to. We're going to come back to that in a second. Speed of the approach. Speed of the approach dictates a lot, specifically momentum and trajectory. The faster the player, the higher they get, the more the ball goes deeper into the court. Now, height actually gives them an advantage of bringing the ball inside on the court, say, as compared to the 27-foot line. If the higher you get, you can hit it down harder. But generally speaking, speed on an approach gives the player more momentum to hit the ball deeper in the process. That's why when we go from JV to varsity to JV, we kind of suck in and play a lot of the small stuff, whereas the varsity level, we're actually going to really play the true perimeter defense. Elbow and hand position, really, really easy. When we're talking about hitting a ball, low elbow, low hand, tip or roll, pretty easy stuff. When we're reading a hitter, identifying what type of hit they're going to be attacking, whether it's a push, an attack, a full-on swing, a roll shot, a short tip, whatever the case may be. You need to understand that, and that's based upon the actual elbow and the shoulder. Anytime the shoulder is down below, the elbow is down below the shoulder, that means a motion is going to have to be upward in order to send the ball over the net. That's usually going to be a roll shot or a tip shot. Anytime someone extends their hand in front of them, obviously, especially with spread fingers, you're looking at a tip shot, and these are things you have to read early in the process. Probably one of the most important ones, especially for the off blocker and the setter. If we see that they're swinging at the ball and the setter's standing directly behind the block, might as well transition at that point. There's no point in being there. Set location we're going to talk about. That's a big one. That refers to where on the net and where on the net horizontally and where vertically, as far as, not vertically per se, but how far off the net is it on, how tight is it on, is it where it needs to be. We're going to cover both of them. Vision itself, when we talk about vision, where's the hitter looking? One of the things, these last two, vision and blockers, I'm going to be frank with you guys, at the level that we play at, most hitters are not looking at blockers. Most hitters are not looking at where they're hitting the ball, specifically because they're going up there and they're hitting it as hard as they can. That's just our level of play, and we have to come to terms with that. So we can't really use this as a catalyst of identifying where a player is going to hit that, because 90% of the players that hit the ball at our level don't use them. Don't even look at a block. We could put 7 people blocking up there. They'd swing the same. Pretty simple stuff. So let's step back and talk a little bit about angle of approach. Angle of approach, it tells us a lot of what we can do. So we have 3 separate angles when we're talking about someone hitting an outside or an opposite ball. The first is to run straight on. So 4 or 5 step approach off, 4 or 5 step approach on. You can do that from right side or outside. The second is to have a curved approach, which means they're stepping out and curving around. The third is going to be to have a straight angled approach from the outside, meaning they're essentially waiting outside and attacking straight on. So it gives us different ranges and different spots. And hitters, this is also something to pay attention to make sure that you can get every shot you can hit. And one of the things that we're talking about here specifically when it comes to angle is what's the shot that they can swing if they stay 100% straight, and what availability is to them when they can torque. Generally speaking, we can't hit the ball to the right of our midline if you're a right-handed hitter. So I can swing straight and I can torque into the left side of the court. I can't turn this way unless I go thumb down, and that's not an attack. That's more of just a roll cut shot that we should be able to pick up just by simple reading. So let's talk about the outsides first, okay? If a player approaches straight on, this is a straight approach, this is a curved approach, and this is an outside taking an angle in automatically. The straight approach as an outside attacker, face this way, I can't, if I dedicate to be 100% straight on the pin, all I can do is hit it straight or left. Left is obviously out of bounds, so if someone takes a straight approach, the only place they can actually hit the ball with velocity is down the line. So, blockers, it tells you that you should block straight down the line. Setter, it tells you to get out of there, because the blocker's not going to, obviously the blockers are going to take away what you would be taking away anyways. It also tells our DSs to shift over to the right a little bit, get our off blocker to cover the middle of the court. This curved approach and when we talk about the curved and the straight outside approach, the curved approach is really a momentum where they're turning their body as they're approaching, whereas an outside approach where it's direct angle means they've shifted over and they're waiting on that angle and then essentially running a straight approach but on an angle, okay? Generally speaking, our outsides, we want them running this. We're better than this, unless they have to actually pass the ball. The reason being, curving your hips as you're attacking the ball, it slows your momentum down, and it also takes away from your torque capability because your hips are moving a lot. So if we look at the range on the curved approach, you're going to see they can't hit 6, generally speaking. They could, but they'd really have to torque on the ball, and they'd have to have a good range on it, and they're limited in the cross shot, especially the short cross shot. Okay, something to be aware of there. Then when we look at the the angled approach, you're going to see that they have much more shot in the strong angle because they're coming in on a strong angle. They still have the same availability to them that they would from the curved angle. So, pretty easy stuff. When we look at and I'm not going to cover opposites because it's the exact same thing, except if they attack, straight on from the opposite side, it's actually an advantage. If they attack curved, it's a major disadvantage. So, straight on, they can come straight down the line and then torque into the court. If they come on an extreme angle from the right side, they can no longer hit the ball into 5 or 6. It's got to go to the left side of the court. So I won't cover that. The middles, you can approach one of 3 ways. You can either go straight line approach, you can transition off from the right side and attack into the left, or you can transition off to the left side and attack into the right. So this is an example of a straight on approach. Problem with a straight on approach, as a middle, if I go in and attack completely straight, all I have is torque or push. Okay, so I can't hit the ball with velocity to my right. Something you have to pay attention to. If I come off to the right, more towards 1, and then angle my body back in, it gives me the ability at a max level to actually, this line should really be more like this, because it's going with their body. They can't really hit down here. So it's going to give them a great shot at 6 and 1, and even a little bit of hard cross attack, but not so much in the 1 again because they're cutting off that angle. And then if we go back left towards the 5, you're going to find that they have the angle cross. They still have the angle to the line, they'd have to torque on it pretty quickly though. So this might be seen more like this, but generally speaking, this is why most middle hitters transition to the left and then attack to the right, because it gives them most room to aim for in the court. If we're running a blue or red attack, this is a huge part of what we do, making sure that we transition to the left. But it tells you a lot as a team. For example, if the middle just blocked a right side attack or an outside attack, they're going to transition off to the right side of the court and then come in. We can pretty much tell that if a middle transitions directly off an outside block and then works their way back into the left of the court, they're probably going to be going after the left side of the court, and we can retreat out of the right side of the court. So their left side to our right side. So pretty straightforward stuff on that. The set location. Now let's talk about on and off first. On the net, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of tipping, a lot of pushing, things along those lines. When we're fighting off on the net, we really don't want to be trying to hit this ball if at all possible. We really just want to cover over it. They'll end up using that block a little bit sometimes, but we need to make sure we don't lose any, stupid plays just because the ball's tight on the net. If it's tight, that's what we call a clamp set, which essentially just means we're just going to get right on top of that ball, penetrate over the net, and let them hit it straight into our hands and go straight down. That's likely going to cause a tip, but that also tells you as a setter and a defensive player, setter and off block, as soon as the ball is set really tight, we should really be crashing into the middle of the court because there's not much other opportunity there. As far as if the ball's set off the net, what this tells you specifically as far as reading-wise is concerned, blockers, you have to wait. You really have to wait. If that set's 2-3 feet off the net, it's a perfect set. That's really where they're going to be hitting the ball, and you're going to be jumping with the actual attack. Actually, a little bit before the actual attack. But if it's set 8 feet off the net, you're actually waiting till they contact the ball, then blocking. So the timing becomes an issue. Also, if the set's right on top of the net, that gives the hitter the ability to hit the ball on a much stronger downward angle, as long as it's high. If it's low and in the net, that's really what you want to stay away from as a setter. But if it's high and on the net, someone that has a good vertical can really hit the ball in a downward momentum. If it is off the net, it actually decreases the angle of which they can hit the ball at a downward angle. Okay, that means two things. One is they can't hit it as hard because they're not right over top of the ball and hitting the ball straight down. They don't have enough room for the actual ball to travel. Now, if they hit it with topspin, it's going to help them. But generally speaking, the further they are off the net, the deeper it's going to go in the court, and the weaker it's actually going to be too. Now, there will be kids that will swing away on that ball. You just need to be ready for it. But when they're set off the net, especially as a 6 defender or a 5 defender, I would instantly take a step back, watch for the arm roll, the elbow. If the elbow drops, then I would start to come back in and watch for the roll shot. But as soon as they're set more than 4 or 5 feet off the net, I have all my defensive players actually take a step back because that roll shot's coming and they're going to be trying to find that corner that you're not paying attention to. As far as the set location is concerned, on the width of the net, going back and forth, this is kind of showing an outside attack setup, showing 3 sets. Your normal set, which is 2 feet inside. Your bad set, inside set, would be a 5 to 7 feet inside. And then your set that's outside the pin. And if you look at the difference, it's going to tell us exactly how we should play this. When we set up a perimeter defense on a normal set, they have ranges that look something like this. This line should actually be a little bit further in. All right, so this is why we play the defense that we do. 6 and 5 split. They both 5 pulls off the base position and covers the line. 6 steps over one and covers in a little bit. And then we have the angles here. This ball can't be hit here unless they torque, and that's what we're setting our block up to do. Our blockers will be right there to take away that shot hard and that shot hard so we can play around them. As a DS, though, your job is to realize, okay, that's what our blockers are doing. We need to play around that block. Only other thing can be a roll shot. All right. Then if we look at the ball that's set really far inside, it opens up the angle of the line a little bit more, but it decreases the cross shot a lot. So if someone's setting the ball really inside, my 5 defenders should actually take a few steps in. And you have to be careful with that because tipping it right here is a good option, but we should have an off blocker that should take that ball. Then we have the outside attack. This ball's set way outside the pin. The pin's here. They can only hit it on that cross shot. We should flood that area with 2 or 3 players, and if you can't get in that area or we're over consuming that area, get out and get ready to cover, dig, or hit. It's a pretty easy spot, but if you can see where, actually pay attention to where the set is, we know where to play defense automatically. And this stuff isn't, you're going to be thinking about this. It's going to be a million miles an hour as it's going. But the key is to constantly be thinking about this sooner or later your brain will start to do it automatically. And that's how outdoor volleyball players become very, very effective, is they've literally done it so many times, as soon as the set's inside, their body automatically takes a step left or right, or whatever the case may be. I know it's a lot. Go through it, get a good understanding. Reading a hitter is a huge part of what we do. Thanks, guys.